Editor Silas here. Very quickly before we get into episode 40 of Time Well Met, I wanted to mention something that we forgot to mention during the episode, which is we're changing the day that we're releasing our episodes. So we are still maintaining that bi-weekly release date, release schedule, but we're changing the day from Saturday to Tuesday. So instead of 2 weeks from today, if you're watching this on the day of release, it'll be 2 weeks from Tuesday. So yeah, new things. There's other new things coming in down the pipeline for 2026. We're very excited. So stay tuned for all of that. And until then, enjoy episode 40 of Time Well Meant.
Hello, and welcome to Time Well Meant, the show where some things are made up and the hosts don't matter. Whether you're joining us for the first time today or you're a returning listener here on Time Well Meant, we normally like to talk about video games, the online happenings of the internet worlds, and we like to put a focus on mental health and how that affects all of our lives, each and every one of us every day. But throw all that shit out the window today because it's episode 40. We get to do one of our deep dives. We're going to dive deep into a topic that I have no idea. I have no idea what we're talking about today, and that makes it even more exciting for me. By the way, I might have already said this, but I'm Kirby, and I'm here, joined as always by the host of our show today, the man of mystery, I think, Silas. How are you doing today, and what are we getting into?
Oh, man. I am getting assaulted by cat toys. I don't know if you saw that. That was a perfectly landed shot by my gremlin of a child, Paulin, who's behind me playing. So if you hear him, that's what it is. But I'm good, man. I'm tired. It's been a hell of a work week. The past 2 work weeks have been hell of a weeks. We had to reschedule our recording day because it was so hellish.
Yep.
But
Happens.
Fucking
That's
Kirby's
life.
a trooper and was down to do it, and here we are. I made it. I have a formulation of ideas that will hopefully come into a cohesive kind of conveyance of information. Whether or not that's the case, I don't know. But if you're ready
I got a drink, and I'm ready to go.
All right.
One thing I did find really funny was when you texted me, I think it was today or maybe yesterday, and you said I'm finalizing up my notes on my lunch break.
Yeah.
And I laughed really hard because when I did the Ernest Shackleton episode, I was also, for about 2 days prior to it, working on that on my lunch break, just finalizing it. So I'm glad to hear you have some notes. I'm glad to hear you're prepared.
I am slightly prepared. This is one of those subjects that I couldn't do it off the cuff. With the lolcows, I was able to. I don't remember the last. What did I do last time? Oh, the horses. The horses I had to have notes. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, breaking news: Uma Musume mobile game of the year.
Is it really? That does not surprise me. That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
The popularity of that's insane. Funnily enough, so I feel like this is becoming like a regular trend. I don't know what's going on in the world where I talk about Japan, and that's what we're talking about today. But today's going to be a little different. So we're actually going to get, and I know I said we'd never do it. We're going to get a little political. Okay.
Oh.
We're going to talk about some politics. Now, mind you, it's politics in the history of Japan in particular, and some things that they've done, some not so nice things, right? Japan's got a sordid history, okay?
Sordid.
Sordid's I think probably one of the best words. If I'm using that correctly, I think I am. It's interesting. And they've, obviously when we think about Japan now, you think about, okay, let me change it up before I get too crazy. What do you think about when you think about Japan?
Horse girls, sushi, really packed trains. What is that one show? Is it Alice in Borderlands? Is he in Japan for that one?
Yeah, that's a good Japanese show.
Yeah,
I believe based on a manga. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Now
that's about it.
Okay. Now, what if I were to tell you that your knowledge and enjoyment of all of that media was by design?
Sounds like a conspiracy.
And what if I were to tell you that, one, it's not a conspiracy, and two, it's a multi-million-dollar political strategy?
Political strategy? Okay.
So the topic of today's deep dive is the cool Japan strategy. Not making up the name.
Cool.
Legitimately,
It's just cool?
cool Japan is
Oh, cool.
it's the cool
Hey,
Japan
Japan is
strategy,
cool.
which is essentially the strategic invention of weebs and Japanese enjoyment of like the culture and everything. So
Sounds
before
like
we
they
get into
won.
that, we dude, it's crazy. What, just you wait. Before we get into that, I need to give a quick shout out to two YouTube channels in particular because this is a very difficult subject to research. One was Katrina Elizabeth, and the other is Elliot Sang. Both of those videos I will link in the description. I some of this stuff that is going to be verbatim what they talk about because it's such a crazy like you can't talk about one without the other, which is you can't talk about the history or you can't talk about cool Japan without talking about the history of Japan and why this sort of strategy needed to take place. Um, and so we'll start with the history and we'll kind of move from there. So I'm just going to fucking get into it if you're ready to learn about this, man.
I think I'm ready.
I hope so. So we start in the Edo period. The Edo period is kind of like the a pretty much like the most well known period. It's the era of like shogunates. It's the area the period of samurai. You have the it's essentially described as like a piece of period or a period of peace and stability under the tight control of the Tokugawa shogunate, which ruled from the city of Edo, which is modern day Tokyo. It lasted from 1600 to 1868, so quite a while. Pretty
200
good.
and almost 300 years?
Yes, of this period of time, and it ended with the Boshin War, which is also known as the Japanese Revolution, which happened from 1868 to 1869, which led to the fall of the shogunate. Now, we're not going to get too much into the fall of the shogunate. That's a whole other like can of worms, like to talk about shogun era, like Edo period of Japan. That's a whole other. There's so much going on. But again, I want to kind of establish like a history of Japan and kind of give you an idea about why something like the cool Japan strategy would need to be a thing. And again, I also want to kind of preface to like, this is not me just shitting on Japan. I fucking love Japan. I love Japanese culture. I have been affected by this clearly. I love their culture. I love, a lot of things about Japan. I think the history is extremely interesting, and I'm just sharing these parts of the history. Some of them being darker than others, right? I think plenty of countries have that kind of darker history, and Japan is one that I think maybe people don't think about as often.
Yeah. It's one of I feel like there's a specific event in Japanese history which I wonder if you might get into that is kind of like a if you know you know kind of thing. But people who don't know don't know. Ooh, they don't know.
Yes. I think we're going to talk about that. That'll be obviously
Ooh,
where
let's
we're going to go
go.
chronologically. Is a certain anyway. Well, we'll get into that. But so I did want to speak briefly about kind of the early on. I mean, obviously, any sort of when you're analyzing a people, you have to analyze how they treated the people around them. So we have to talk about briefly the Ainu people. So the Ainu people, which not many people would know about, this is more of a Japanese kind of specific people. Is they occupied what is current day Hokkaido. So Hokkaido is an island that is part of Japan, and from 1799 to 1806, the Tokugawa shogunate began to take direct control of Hokkaido, during which time the Ainu people were, they didn't get the best treatment. They were occupying the Ainu people, to give, I guess, some context. They occupied Hokkaido, Honshu, Sakhalin, and various other lands around the Sea of Okhotsk, which is like an Asian. It's like in the peninsula next to like Russia and stuff.
Okay.
It's all kind of the northern, at least from the map if I'm remembering the map. But they were treated very poorly by the Japanese. Women were often separated from their husbands, and it wasn't good. They were often they're often forced to marry Japanese men as a part of assimilation. Ainu men would be deported would be deported to merchant contracts that would last 5 to 10 years as a part of that continued separation. Family separation and assimilation combined with smallpox kind of ravaged their population. I mean, it really just destroyed them. And their population just plummeted during the 19th century. And then during the Meiji Restoration, there was the Hokkaido Development Commission, which established and led to the annexation of Hokkaido itself. So for a while, they kind of just occupied this land, slowly kind of assimilated the people into Japanese culture forcefully, as one does when colonizing. It was once the Meiji era took place, which was right after the Japanese Revolution, right in like the late 1800s, is when Hokkaido was officially annexed, and the people were fully assimilated into Japanese culture. A lot of the Japanese populace at that time viewed the Ainu people as dirty and primitive, and they were often forced into petty labor. They were, I mean, like well into the 20th century, they were treated like shit. It wasn't until 2019, actually, that the Japanese government, I have a note about this, that in 2008, I believe, the Ainu people, or no, it's 2012. I might have the years off a little bit. The Ainu people were actually, there was a bill passed to officially observe the Ainu people as the indigenous people of Japan. And that act was finally passed in 2019, recognizing them as indigenous people of Japan. So, like, kind of fucked up, right? Like, rude.
So they're saying that the Ainu people were sort of like the Native Americans are to us here in America.
Yes,
like, they were there first. And then, so where'd the Japanese people come from?
That's a whole other video.
I'm picturing, because Japan's kind of a small island, and then
Sure.
I'm hearing Hokkaido's a small island off the side.
Yes.
But apparently the small island people were there first.
Yes, they were. At least in like places like Hokkaido.
That almost sounds
Honshu.
That almost sounds like we're gonna slide you a 20 under the table. Shut up about this shit we did 100 years ago,
dude,
200 years ago.
It's crazy to hear people talk about the Ainu people, how the way that they're portrayed is almost like, hey, we found this empty island with no one there and everything's cool and we just get to chill here, right? Look at all these resources and all this land. Don't worry about these guys, and like shove them under the rug. It was very much,
brutal.
Kind of a forgotten piece of Japanese history for sure.
It does sound very akin to the Native Americans in America situation.
I will say a lot of this period,
Similar.
Especially the Meiji period, as we're going to get into here in just a minute, is very influenced by Western colonization. As imperialism kind of took over and you started getting more extreme nationalism kind of escalating towards World War II, you see how that expansionist ideology really, really like intensifies. And so it really escalates because you have these years, and obviously there's plenty of conflict during the Edo period. There's numerous wars. Again, like covering the Edo period, I want to just briefly cover these kind of periods of time to then get to kind of the main meat of of what I want to talk about, which is one particular event and then Cool Japan.
Yeah, you're good.
It's hard to, there was this period of time, again, the Edo period, 200 plus years of following this feudal system, which is, it's this relationship between lords and vassals. I wrote some of these definitions down in case you guys don't know what feudalism is. It's the relationship between lords and vassals, where land and ownership and its use were exchanged for military service and loyalty. That's the official what's it called? Fucking definition. I have definitions here. We're gonna learn shit today.
Hell yeah. We are. So a vassal, though, I don't think I've ever heard that term. That's like just a peasant.
Vassal is not a peasant. A vassal is so you think about like so you have your head motherfucker, right? Like, let's say your lord. Your vassals are going to be this is to my brief understanding, it's going to be the extensions of the lord. They're going to be higher up officers, if you will, within these sort of
middle managers.
Yes, middle managers. They're not peasants. Think about like England, like the king of England is like a
Oh.
lord, and then the other smaller kingdoms that he would rule over would be his vassals.
I'm thinking about the shift manager at McDonald's in relation to the general manager.
Yes, exactly. Wow. The relationship between feudalism and common day capitalist working structures it's all coming together. Oh. Oh, as our friend Tyler would say, history is a flat fucking circle. It's yes. So, with all of this kind of happening, the feudal era ends. The feudal Japan kind of ends in this kind of big hurrah, the Boshin War. Not gonna get into that. There's too much going on there. We're just gonna mention it and move on because there's too much, and I can't stop here.
They were just blowing through wars, huh?
Dude, and it gets crazy. Wait till we get to the Taisho period. So in the Meiji period lasts from 1868 to 1912, and it's defined by the emperor at the time, Emperor Meiji, spelled Meiji. If I butcher the name, I'm sorry. I'm bad at pronouncing some of this stuff. But during this time, supreme power is restored to the emperor. Edo is renamed to Tokyo. It's a period that saw the rise of industrialization and the abolishment of feudalism and the samurai class. So that's where you have like the fall of the samurai, and this Japan sort of adopts a lot of Western culture and ideology. You see a shift in the clothing, in the culture. Again, industry is just skyrocketing. During this time, the Meiji government hired hundreds of Western nations, or hundreds of advisors from Western nations to help modernize and remodel Japan's institutions. And Japan started having a great focus on not only industry, but military. And so this military they started fucking going. Okay. I'm not going to get into a lot of the minor conflicts they had. I'm not going to get into like their occupation of Korea, all of their conflicts with Russia and China. And I mean, honestly, like it's interesting in and of itself to kind of cover that sort of thing. Because Japan was always kind of seen as like this, like, especially during the era of feudalism, they were always kind of seen as like the little brother to China. They were never really seen as like a big kind of threat that they were seen in that kind of era following feudalism. But once they started like really expanding and fighting, it got bad real quick. Okay. China got their ass whooped. Okay. Russia got their ass whooped. And it kind of sent this message out to the world, like, Japan's not here to fucking play around anymore. Okay. This little island is wearing some big boy pants now. All right.
Little boy came out swinging to make a point.
That's right. I mean, like, so there's the first and second Sino-Japanese War. We'll talk about this second Sino-Japanese, or I think it's either Sino or Sino. It's Sino, which is the China-Japanese Wars that happened. We'll talk about the second
region?
one. Is it Sino? Possibly. Maybe. We'll talk about the second war a little bit later because it's very important to what we're going to talk about going forward. And then the Russo-Japanese War, which was, again, war with Russia. But these sorts of conflicts and them winning really allowed them to expand quite aggressively. So then we have this idea of nationalism, and nationalism is defined as identification with one's own nation and support of its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations. So that gained such popularity within Japanese culture, especially as you saw each military triumph. Again, there was newspapers, there was media within Japan that was boasting about how well the military was performing. The military themselves started to gain this traction, and you saw this kind of rise and like this very intense pride within Japan. People were fucking gung-ho, dude. They were like, dude, we're winning. This is like, awesome.
We beat Russia. We beat China. We'll beat anybody.
We're occupying Korea. We don't give a shit about, whatever. Like, we got all this land. At one point, they occupied Taiwan for a period of time. Yes. So, I mean, they were fucking kicking ass and taking names. They didn't care. Obviously, as things progressed from World War I to World War II, and you saw an increase of military technologies advancing, that then caused issues along the way of taking great losses and kind of, things kind of running out of steam. But at the same time, you have the Ainu people that they're pulling from. You have Koreans that they're starting to recruit. They're still kind of fueling this war machine. So Meiji passes and his son Taisho takes over. Taisho's kind of boring. During his era, obviously, some fucking awful shit happened. But his rule as an emperor was kind of like whatever, like a blip when it comes to I guess this Japanese era of Reformation. He was in power between 1912 and 1926. He actually, again, very short rule, died of illness. Whatever. It's the shit that kind of happened while he was in power that's kind of scary. You saw an extreme rise in nationalism and right-wing extremism and violence. There were several politicians that were killed, including a Japanese prime minister named Hara Takashi, who was stabbed to death by a conservative nationalist. Takashi was really unpopular with the military and conservatives. He wanted to kind of dial things back. He didn't really want, obviously he saw like, oh man, everyone is, we're expanding and things are happening, but at what cost, right? It was an extreme, it took an extreme economic toll. People were getting pissed. The U.S. was angry. They were very angry at Japan. Like, Japan, what the fuck? You guys are, doing all this crazy shit. Anyways, they were ruining a lot of relationships for their own pride. You then saw...
there is some parallels to be drawn out there with this and other things.
Yes, indeed. But so because Takashi was so unpopular, there were plenty of people who were just like, oh, okay, whatever. And his death was just kind of another step towards this extreme nationalism. You started to see elements of fascism. To define fascism, fascism is a far-right authoritarian, which authoritarian means favoring or enforcing strict obedience to authority, especially that of the government at the expense of personal freedom. So you saw a rise of this far-right authoritarian or fascism is defined as a far-right authoritarian and ultranationalist, which ultranationalist is an extreme form of nationalism in which the country asserts or maintains homogeny, supremacy, or other forms of control over other nations, usually through violent coercion. Is how fascism works. In the pursuit of specific interests,
says, folks, don't
yes,
at us.
Don't. It's not. It's what the dictionary says. But it's a political ideology. But you saw these sort of ideologies kind of rise up and take the forefront. And this is, this is kind of reflected in the actions of, of Japan's political system. You'll kind of see as we continue along. You have, so the assassin was meant to, when they were charging the assassin, they wanted to give him the death penalty. They were like, brother, you gotta die. That's kind of fucked. That was our prime minister. You gotta die. And instead he got given a life sentence, to which he was, he only served 13 years of, because he was granted amnesty by the emperor to mark the birth of the crown prince. So they were like, you know what? 13 years is enough. I know you killed the prime minister, but you're good to go, bud. See ya.
What?
Yes. And this is, again, it was kind of a sign like, hey, we can kill these people and get away with it. That's cool, I guess.
Only 13 years in prison.
He should have been killed. Like, that's the thing. It's like, in this, anyone else who would have committed some sort of atrocity against military or someone who was favorable in politics probably would have gotten a death penalty. They probably would have been killed. This man got a lot of favorable treatment because of his leanings and kind of the ideology. And again, this kind of pro, he was a bit of an extremist, but he's still, and you got to see sort of this, like, greater than thou sort of pride within Japanese culture. There were events like the Kanto massacre, which took place after the Great Kanto earthquake, in which the Japanese military, police, and vigilante murdered thousands of Koreans because of a rumor that there were Koreans that were poisoning wells. The rumors were false according to many Japanese sources, but it happened nonetheless. We'll talk a little bit about Japan and Korea's relationship. It's been a rocky one, to say the least. But yeah, you started having just these these really intense feelings, right? All of this kind of came to a bit of a head as we move into the Showa period. Now, Emperor Hirohito began his rule in 1926. And he had I'm pretty sure I wrote this down correctly, that he had the longest reign of any Japanese emperor. He reigned from 1926 all the way to 1989. He had a 63-year-long reign.
Wait, how old was he when he died?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't write this shit down. We don't give a fuck about him. We just care about the time.
He had to have been like 80
period.
or 90. That's wild.
He was pretty old. But he ruled for quite a long time. During this time, again, even though the emperor is in power, the Japanese military is really, really acting on their own accord. They actually staged in 1931, they staged a false flag operation that led to the invasion of Manchuria. There was strong evidence to show that the initial explosion, which was next to a Japanese railroad in Mukden, which has been now called the Mukden incident, was caused by young officers of the Japanese Kwantung Army who acted without any direct orders from Tokyo. So they're just like, fuck it, we ball. We're just going to do this because we want to. We want some war. We need more war. We need to kill more. And if we kill more, we get more glory. And if we get more glory, we bring more pride to Japan. And the wheel keeps turning, right? And it was a little scary. But at the same time, they're like, hey, fuck it. We'll do whatever we want.
If I could interject just real quick,
Yeah,
I've often thought about, like, when you hear about Pearl Harbor and like the kamikaze planes, I kind of thought to myself once or twice in my life, like, dude, that's insane. I'm just going to get in this plane, buy family, buy everybody. I'm going to go crash, but it's for my country. And that, they're so motivated and driven. Maybe they had drugs or something in their system, but still. And what you're describing, man, to get that deep into it, that balls deep in, like, we're doing this for China or Japan. Yeah. We're fighting China for Japan.
Yep. And see, you need to understand that this is why I went back all the way to the Edo period, because this didn't just start, like right at 1945 or 44. I have it in here when Pearl Harbor happens. I didn't write down the date. Whoops. This didn't start, in the 40s, right? This was a very slow, and again, I am really
building for a long time from what you're telling me.
I am kind of surface level, kind of mentioning a lot of things. There was a lot leading up to conflicts with China, conflicts with Russia, occupation
I'm so
in
interested
Korea.
in that. That's crazy to me. Russia and Japan.
Dude, I wanted to. The thing about it is I want to get to kind of the main point, which is why I'm trying not to linger too heavily on. History is cool. Like, the history is awesome. And we're going to focus still on, there's a lot more history to kind of talk about, especially kind of what we're going to talk about upcoming. But I didn't want to linger for like an hour on just like, let's talk about Japan, because it's really cool. It is really, really cool to look at how. And to have all this information, it's so well documented. We have all this information from Japanese newspapers because they documented things so closely. From personal accounts from people who were there. There were people from the Meiji era that were still alive and advising all the way up into the Showa period, right before World War I or right before World War II. Like, there were people into the 30s and 40s that were, had been there, watching the rise of imperialism and nationalism into, going into World War II. Like, it's fucking crazy. But so anyway, because of this initial Mukden incident, there were more false flags. They're like, fuck it, we can just start wars and it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna get public support. We're gonna start, dude. No, and because the thing about it is there was really no repercussions. No one was punished. There was no one who could resist. It was seen as an act of violence from China or from Manchuria against the Japanese people. And so they reacted. It wasn't even a matter of like, we're just going to go attack them. It was, they reacted to what was thought to be a violent action taken against the Japanese people. So there were other false flags, operations that were met with little resistance from Japanese officials. And a lot of it was just because they couldn't rein in their own military They were just like, you know what are we going to do? The public sentiment was just two big thumbs up. Let's do this. And they took pride in their actions. They took pride in seeing the military bring victory to Japan. One of the last kind of politicians that we'll talk about is a man named Ainu Tsuyoshi, who he took control of prime minister. He took control as prime minister 3 months after the Mukden incident. The guy who was in charge before him was like, I'm good, and stepped down.
Right.
To which Inukai took over. And, you know, he didn't have, he's definitely kind of the wrong guy for the job. In terms of the vibe that was getting, or that the in terms of the direction that Japan was heading, he was not the guy. But due to the he had this kind of idea of like, I want to rein back the military. I want to focus on some political things that is kind of controversial. Like, you know, I really want to help out the Japanese people. I think we're kind of going, he really wanted to help the economy. Cause again, as much as they were fighting, they were really burning a lot of resources. They were expanding way too quickly. One of the kind of things that, what's his name? I have his name here. Elliot talks about in his video is about the fact that, like, because he talks way more about the history of all of this. But he kind of mentions about the fact that, like, Japan was expanding at such a rapid rate that they weren't really like sitting down to like settle in the areas that they were in. They would set up kind of these puppet states or kind of establish places that they're at, but they really weren't investing the resources necessary to keep things stable, right? They were just expanding. Right. They were getting really, really aggressive. And the train wasn't stopping. You know what I mean?
Sure, they just like roll through, plant a Japanese flag, and keep walking. Like, this is ours now. And people, they're like, what the fuck?
Fuck shit up and dip. You know what I mean? Tip the hat as they exit the door. But so anyway, Inukai really struggled against the military. He acted against them at several times. He at one point in time, he had to stand in, let's see. Yes. So there was a certain point in time, there was one, at least early on in his kind of tenure, or it wasn't even really a tenure. At one point in time in his position as prime minister, he had to kind of just like stand back and hands off watch as a false flag operation took place in Shanghai.
Shanghai?
Yes. There was another point in time where I think this is kind of because of this false flag that happened in Shanghai. There was a puppet state established called Manchukuo. But he, as an act of resistance against the military, he withheld formal diplomatic recognition as a gesture of displeasure against the radical factions within the Imperial Japanese Army. That wasn't a very smart move.
That was not the move. That's going to cause a rift.
Not the play. The struggles that he kind of portrayed and the resistance that he kind of showed towards the Japanese military obviously eventually led to his assassination by 11 junior Navy officers who shot him. One of the interesting things that Elliot also talks about in his video is how... Go ahead.
How do you get assassinated by 11 men?
They fucking stand around and pop, pop.
That is not assassination. That is something different.
So, one of the things I'll talk about too, I'll actually give these this here too. It's said that his final words to this group of young men was, "If we could talk, you would understand." To which they replied, "Dialogue is useless," and then gunned him down. The original assassination plan actually included English film star Charlie Chaplin, who happened to be watching sumo with Inukai's son and managed to avoid the entire plot altogether. And his death was meant to provoke war with the United States. So this kind of just shows how like big for their britches. Dude, Japan is going crazy.
Were they going to kill Charlie Chaplin?
They were going to kill him. They were going to kill him to piss America off. They were already pissing America off, but they were going to kill him as like, this is the final straw. You killed Charlie Chaplin.
Dude, that would have done it too. Yeah. Americans would have gone wild. They get him.
He was again, and they thought, but this kind of goes to show. So there was one of the things I was going to mention that Elliot mentioned in his video is the fact that they there was a group of people who sent a jar of pinkies that they had severed themselves with a letter saying, you should please try us, don't try these people, because they thought that their acts were so justified. Yeah.
Jesus, dude.
Yes.
Okay,
So
you've
this is
given
kind
me
of
a question
sure.
that I want to write down for later, actually. So go ahead.
I
I'm
got
sorry.
you. This just kind of, again, it reinforces that nationalism, that pride, that, we have to grow, we have to expand, we have to be Japan. We're Japan, dude. We can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
There were various war crimes that began to happen, taken by the Japanese military. You started seeing that very early on, as these kind of false flag operations are happening. The U.S. the whole time is just fucking pissed off by a lot of what's going on, and as this is sort of happening, their relationship begins to just deteriorate over time. During 1937, so I mentioned that false flag in Shanghai. That sparked the Second Sino-Japanese War, which begins in 1937. And Japan was like, we're going to do this. We're going to go all in. And they really wanted to expand into China very aggressively. And
Dude,
that's when nuts.
So they were pushing wars all over on their left. They're trying to piss off America. They're pushing into China. They're just way too big for their britches.
Yes. And I really kind of wish I would have looked more into what the idea behind going to war with America. I've read about it a little bit before, but I'm not going to speak about it here with confidence. Just because not in my notes. It's not something.
Clearly, they tried later on, a couple years later.
Yeah, no, they definitely want to go to war. Again, I don't remember exactly why they were so gung-ho about going to war with the U.S. I think because they had leaned so heavily on them for a very long time. The U.S. was very integral in kind of, pushing towards the industrialization of Japan. U.S. colonialism goes back into the 1800s, when they start making, when they start really kind of coming together with the shogunates and pushing for this kind of industrial age into the Meiji period and kind of even forward going through like towards the Showa period. But like America was like, guys, you went way too far. You know what I mean? They're like, it's getting a little out of hand. And again, we really will start to see this as we go into the second Sino-Japanese War, when we talk about the victory in Nanjing, the Japanese military committing the infamous Nanjing massacre. Now, I'm going to stop right here really quickly. I don't know if this is what you were thinking about earlier.
It's not, but that's
okay. Really? Okay, well, we can talk about that after this. Have you ever heard of the Nanjing massacre? And actually, before I get into that, I need to give a disclaimer right here.
Yes.
If you're sensitive to topics about murder, torture, violent criminal or war crimes.
Yeah.
War crimes. Yeah. If you're sensitive to that sort of thing, I am going to put a timestamp right here. And I want you to skip to that. I will make sure that this video is chaptered so you can skip this part in particular, because this gets very graphic. And I'm sorry, but it's kind of a necessary evil when discussing kind of this sordid history with Japan. But what were you gonna say?
Oh no. Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, we need a disclaimer here. We discussed that.
Yes.
So let's get graphic.
Nanjing is as Japan is invading, they're moving from I have this written down, Shanghai to Jianjing, right? Or Nanjing. Jianjing? Anyways, I have this written down.
What is that? Southeast, west, north?
I'm not sure the direction. I think it's east.
It's somewhere around east. Shanghai in a direction.
Yes, in a direction. I didn't like this is a great time to pull up a map, right? But there was this march. There's this very infamous march that happens on the way to Nanjing, where, the military that China was not ready. In the one thing that I want to mention too is like in the first Sino-Japanese War, China was already not ready. A big part of why China lost that first war is because of how disorganized they were. There was a lot of, whereas because Japan was kind of so small and tight knit, they were way more organized. So they just kicked ass. They walked in, they were organized, they were ready, they had a plan. The plan for Nanjing and the plan for this kind of second war was scorched earth. It was destroy everything in your path. We were going to leave nothing standing. We were going to destroy and decimate these people. It wasn't about control. It was like basically just a pure show of power. During their travels in the countryside, Japanese aircraft would frequently strafe unarmed farmers and refugees for fun. That was just like a casual thing they were doing. Civilians were subjected to extreme violence and brutality in the 170 miles between Shanghai and Tianjin. This is all while just on the countryside. This isn't even getting into the cities. Again, if you haven't left by now, this is the time. Last warning. Inhabitants of smaller villages would be locked inside of houses and have their houses set on fire with them still inside. The levels of SA that were committed, and I'm going to say it again later, I literally can't talk about it. I actually cannot talk about it. It is so graphic. I'm not going to. Reading about it was hard enough. If you want to know more about that side of it for whatever fucking crazy reason, it's out there. I'm not going to talk very deeply about it. We will talk kind of more about the other violence that happened, but not that one, because that was fucking crazy. Along this road, villagers were often bayoneted or disemboweled. Civilians from a village in Changzhou were rounded up and massacred with heavy machine guns. Chinese civilians would often take the easy way out because they wanted to avoid facing these atrocities. In some of the urban areas, we saw these sorts of things escalate to the umpteenth degree. In Jiading, it was shelled, followed by the army moving in and killing 8,000 civilians. There was no one was off the table. I'm talking women, children, civilians, wounded soldiers, prisoners of war. No one was free from these atrocities. In the city of Taikang, half of the city was burned, just completely razed, leveled to the ground, while its salt and grain stores were looted. In Zhenjiang, sorry if I'm butchering these names, at one point they set the city on fire. Anyone who was trying to flee or get out was promptly executed. And the city was burned for 10 straight days, with Japanese soldiers burning wounded Chinese soldiers alive. Women and children obviously faced a much worse fate. According to one Japanese journalist, imperial forces were moving so rapidly towards Nanjing because they had a tacit consent among officers and men that they could loot and rape as they wish. That is a quote from a Japanese journalist that was embedded within the Japanese army at the time. Along the way, there is a very famous event called the Massacre Contest. Now, this is something that happened where between two Japanese officers. This is extremely, I should say, infamous atrocity that happened between two Japanese officers who had a contest, which was a race to kill 100 people using only a sword. There are very graphic images of soldiers holding decapitated heads and posing and smiling with sword in hand. The way that we know a lot of the details about these sorts of things is because it was covered in the fucking Japanese newspaper. The Tokyo Nichi Shimbun, which is the Japanese newspaper that was printed from 1872 to 1943, followed this like a sporting event. It was almost like updates to a fucking football game. They would give regular updates as the contest went on.
What?
Yes. And all of this, like everything that I'm saying happens before we even get to fucking Nanjing. Okay. This is before any of the fucking actual stuff happens. Right. This is the road leading up to it. Getting to Nanjing is when everything the knob gets turned to 11. Okay. Japanese forces begin, as soon as they begin to encircle the city, they begin to engage in random acts of murder, rape, looting, arson, and other war crimes in the area. The battle for the city lasts from the 9th to the 12th. Oh, fuck, I didn't write down the date, the month. It's basically a 3-day battle to which Japan just fucking rocks these guys. Okay, it's bad. Once the battle is over, that 11 goes to a 15. Everything escalates so drastically. Organized massacres of Chinese POWs and male civilians take place for the following during in the ensuing days. The systematic executions like really just shot up the death toll. In one of the largest massacres, there's 17 to 20,000 Chinese prisoners who were led to the banks of the Yangtze River and machine gunned to death in one day. I mean, literally, like, I can't. I legitimately, I'm going to say it again. What happened to the women and children within this period of time, I literally can't talk about. The way that I am able to kind of like there's just so many, like, I wanted to do images. I started to gather pictures and I couldn't. There's such graphic recording of this. This isn't even talking about, so there's another kind of event happening kind of simultaneously, being performed by Unit 731, which is the scientific side of all of this. We're not going to talk about them. Yes, I'll just, that's a whole other video. Experiments are being performed on the Chinese civilians. That's a whole other
and this
can
is
of
like,
worms.
what year did you say? 1937?
This is 1937.
Dude, that is kind of crazy to me. This was all kind of going on during the similar time as the rise of the Nazis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
fucking horrible, dude.
And
Just
so, go ahead. I was just going to say
have such
that
a disconnect in my mind between,
sure.
Even if you're a soldier and you're hopped up, you're like, yeah, for Japan. And they're like, go murder a woman and child. Like, what? And not only that, but thousands of the soldiers all moving forward and just committing this and doing this and being committed into it just blows my mind. And I know that's not the first time. Hopefully it would be one of the lasts, but
there's definitely a lot to be studied when it comes to these sorts of atrocities and sort of this what the mentality is. I think there was a big part of it is they didn't view the Chinese populace as human, kind of how the Nazis viewed the Jews as inhuman.
Yep.
I think when you take the human away from people, it makes these atrocities much easier to commit.
And then you're surrounded by it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Everyone's doing it.
I don't think a single human would. A large percentage of a single human beings would never commit any of these things on their own.
Absolutely.
But then if you have 1,000 people all around you saying, "Yep, this is what we're doing," and it's cool.
Mm-hmm. The way that I was kind of able to convey what was happening to the women and children of Nanjing is there were approximately, if I don't mean to make light of this, it's the only way I can kind of pose this in my brain. I don't know why I fucking wrote this. Now I'm reading this, I sound like a fucking piece of shit. There would be approximately 20,000 SVU cases committed by Japanese soldiers. It's kind of the way that when you think about that scale.
How do they even have time to do all the killing?
This and like, mind you, this is happening.
They're doing all this on the clock. This is on taxpayers' dollar, dude.
Yes, it's nuts. Like, what the fuck? It's hard to even. I mean, when you really start thinking about these numbers too, it's like this is all happening in such a short period of time, and things are just escalating even more. The death toll. Oh, go ahead.
This might be a redundant question, and I don't know if you'd have an answer. I'm assuming all of this assault on women happens, and then afterwards they're offed?
It depends.
Ugh.
It's a case-by-case basis. I mean, again, without getting too into the nitty-gritty, some of them lived, some of them died. I mean, there were survivors of this massacre.
So terrible, either way.
Yeah, no, it was a fucking like night, like when you read about this shit, it's like, what the fuck, man? Like,
I'm sorry.
guys.
I just really need to rephrase my last sentence. It's so sad either way. It's obviously more sad if they die.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's yeah, no, you're
I mean,
right. It is sad. There's no good ending for that, right? There's no good ending to your home being occupied, the people that you love being brutalized or
massacred.
murdered, just massacred on such a scale. The thing that I was going to get into next
And
is
for
the death
fucking
toll
nothing.
for nothing for a country's hubris. Um, the death toll ends up totaling to about anywhere. There's multiple estimates. The kind of commonplace estimate is somewhere in between 100 and 200,000. Whereas other estimates are saying anywhere between 40,000 to up to 340,000 people killed in this massacre. From there, you get Japan forging alliances with Germany and Italy in 1940. They attacked the U.S.
Surprise.
in 41, and the rest is kind of history. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of
Like, I mean, who else wants to be friends with Japan doing all that shit besides
yeah,
Germany and Italy at that time frame?
yes. I mean, and breaking down the happenings of World War II is a whole other fucking. We could talk about that for a whole
It
other fucking
was
hour-long video.
it was infamous.
It was very infamous.
See what I did there?
Yes.
Okay, well, as of right now, I'm just feeling like Japan's really not cool. I don't think Japan's cool at all, dude.
Mission accomplished. So did the rest of the world. The rest of the world was like, guys, what the fuck? You guys are awful. Understandably, and I didn't really go too deeply into this because I kind of wanted to keep the
You
focus
went
on
more
Japan.
than deep enough. Japan is so uncool.
Well, I wanted to kind of mention there was a lot of external my brain is fogging up. There was a lot of external discussions about the actions of Japan, and there was a lot of external influence internationally because people were real fucking upset. Not just, I mean, Nanjing was like, we didn't understand the full scale of it till a little while after, but like people were still pissed off about what was going on.
I mean, that's what do you call it? Geopolitics, right? International politics, and it's still happening to this day where other countries are doing shit, but America or whatever other country looks at it and says that sucks. Hey, don't do that. But we're not going to step in and start a war over it. It's not our problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever country.
Yeah, and until it affects you, there are countries where it's like, until it affects us, hey, we're tough shit.
So I can just imagine the entire time the United States was sitting over here going, Japan, cut the shit. Hey, we're warning you. This is the last. This is the real last warning. Don't do 1, 2, and started counting like a pissed off parent.
Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do too with the fact that there was a lot going on in the world.
Yeah.
The U.S. is already having to deal with the fact that like their cousins in Europe are fighting, and it's like, guys, what the fuck? Can we? Anyways, that's a whole other can of worms. We're not here to talk about World War II specifically. But
okay, last thing I want to say about World War II.
Absolutely.
I recently just happened to listen to a pretty deep dive about like pre-World War II, specifically in Germany. And the Nazis did not just appear in the late 30s or the 40s.
Yep.
They were growing from the 20s.
Yep.
And slowly gaining this. And I have to draw some sort of parallel, all of the nationalism that was rising from Japan from all the years, all the generations of parents, grandparents, whatever, saying Japan is great and we'll always be great and we're going to be more great.
Yeah.
And it kind of builds and builds. Dude, there was something going on in the world in that time.
You're
something
100%
in the water
correct.
making everybody pissed.
There was definitely something. Well, and there was two sides of the coin, because you had nationalism is kind of a thing that all countries will suffer from, or not even necessarily suffer from. We'll sometimes, I've definitely been patriotic at times. I remember,
True.
There's definitely been times where I've been proud to be an American.
September 12th, 2001.
That's right, baby. Fucking, we were all cawing like eagles.
Dude, the old Navy shirts with the American flag, we all had them.
Every
Went
single
hard.
one of us. So, nationalism is not anything, it's not something to be necessarily afraid of. When you look at a lot of these things, not necessarily fascism, but when you look at things like nationalism, when you look at things like feudalism, when you break them down and kind of take their pieces apart and analyze them, there's things like nationalism that aren't, in it's almost like salt. You put too much of it, it's going to suck, right? But if you got a little sprinkle, it's not bad. It's not bad to have a little national pride, right?
It's more like MSG, because too much is bad for you.
Right. That's, but you can get away with maybe not, you don't want to get extreme. You definitely don't want to get extreme. Right. But if you have a little bit of national pride, maybe not traditional nationalism, you don't want to be so gung-ho about your country that you start, not giving a fuck about other people in other countries, but you can be proud to be part of whatever country you're in.
I'm really glad that you gave the dictionary definition of nationalism, because there's nothing wrong with it. You should, I think, if you're born in a place, hopefully it's treated you right and allowed you to have a decent life. So now, so it's okay to have pride in it. It's okay to want the best for it and the best for.
It's when you put that ultra in there. You know what I mean?
True. But there's nothing wrong with wanting the best for your country and your people.
Yeah. Identifying.
And if somebody was to attack your country and your people, it makes sense that you'd want to defend, at least, defend. But when you just start marching into another country and dooping all their people in different ways, all right?
Yeah. So to give the for those of you who might have forgotten, to give the definition again, it's the identification with one's own nation and support for its interests, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations. So obviously,
that's the kicker, the detriment of other nations.
Yes, that's once you get to that point of nationalism, it's like, okay, maybe we back off a little bit. Once that ultra creeps in, and you get the combo, not so good anymore.
You can be ultra cool.
You
can be a nationalist. You just can't be an ultra nationalist.
Don't be an ultra nationalist, please, Jesus. A little bit of nationalism. Have a little pride. Don't go extreme.
Hopefully that doesn't apply to everybody. Hopefully your country has treated you well.
That's true. That's true.
You should have in a certain type of country where they treat you like shit. In which case. Move somewhere else. Hopefully, not that that's just easy, but hopefully you can do that. Hopefully you can get out and get somewhere and be proud of where you live,
Listen, if your country has a Denny's, you're doing all right, okay?
There's not actually a Denny's in North Korea. I hope everybody knows that. That is a joke.
That's why that place is poopy. Not as cool to live in.
Yeah, that's why it's poopy.
The lack of Denny's goes a long way, man. So anyways, World War II happens. Time skip.
Next.
Click. Who cares? Let's talk about the Spice Girls a little bit. Did you expect? Was that the direction that you were going?
I thought you were going to say K-pop Demon Hunters, but all right.
No, we get to that later. Girls. Let's talk about Britain in the 60s. There's a little term called Cool Britannia, which is coined in 1967. And you see a rise of this movement into the 90s. You have bands like Oasis, you have the Spice Girls. Love the Spice Girls.
Austin Powers.
You have Austin Powers. You have a lot of in the 90s and 2000s you started seeing a rise of British culture kind of spread internationally.
Yeah, okay. I see that.
Yeah. You kind of saw this reformation through media, especially, and this
James
surge
Bond.
of James Bond did. You saw this just surge of international British popularity. And there was kind of this movement that the government was like, this is fucking awesome. We're really happy about this. This is great. People love Britain.
So did Britain plan that, or did that just sort of start happening?
It sort of just kind of happened.
And then they started rolling with it. Right?
They just started rolling. They're like,
boys.
fuck it. Yeah, this is awesome.
They love us.
So with the ideology of Cool Britannia and kind of this movement that happened, Japan kind of sees this and is like, ugh. So we did some pretty awful shit back then. And people fucking hate us.
Right.
It really wasn't until like the 1980s that people started to see a reformation within Japanese reputation. Like people were like, Japan's kind of fucked up. You guys remember World War II? That was not that long ago.
I imagine like my grandfather's father watched Japan do all that shit, heard about it in the news. He was not a fan.
No, Not a fan at
And then
all.
he raises my grandfather. My grandfather was not a fan. He had some slurs I can't repeat for the Japanese.
And I mean, we could go into the treatment of Japanese Americans during World War II,
Right.
wartime, and that's a whole other fucking can of worms that we're not going to get into right now
I was
because we're
kind
not
of
talking about
referring
America.
to,
No,
to
I
I can
mean,
totally
no.
understand how the American sentiment. It takes
Sure.
years to
Well, and
they
it's
bombed
not
us
even
in
the.
Pearl Harbor. We're gonna be pissed at them for a long time.
It's not just America, man. It's Korea. It's China.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
I'm sure. Oh my God.
internationally
Has
super
China
unpopular.
has China ever like forgiven any of the
No,
Nanang stuff? I can't imagine. I mean, I
not
wouldn't.
really. Not really.
Has it ever been addressed by the Japanese government? Do you know?
Not that I am aware of. Not that I found in my research. They kind of mended things with Korea a little bit. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. But Japan and China, especially current day, I won't get into current day Japanese politics. Not going so well. Okay,
Not a fan, huh?
we'll
Not getting
leave
along?
that for another day. We're gonna hope anyways. It's stuff and things.
Okay.
So due to the combination of its failures in World War II and its aggressive imperial history, Japan was kind of forced to alter its approach to global democracy, global diplomacy. When you can't just fucking move your army in and take shit over, you kind of have to figure out a way to empower yourselves.
Like
They
a
can
toddler,
no longer,
you got to use your words.
dude. That's actually really funny. That's absolutely what's happening. So because they could no longer raise an army, they were only allowed, they like changed their
right?
whole constitution. Yeah. They could only have a
Post-World War.
self-defense force. Yeah. Post World War II. They were no longer to employ hard power, which is, obviously, aggressive and hard power is basically when you take the shit that you want. Right. They couldn't
Annexing another country. None
Yeah,
of that.
exactly. That's hard power. This began to so because they couldn't do this, employ this hard power through the military, they had to start cultivating soft power on the global stage.
Hey, I know
and
something about
so-
soft power.
Hey, same Z's. So now we got to talk a little about soft power. Soft power is kind of very important to Cool Japan and how it works. But it's the ability to co-opt rather than coerce, in contrast to hard power, which is you're fucking just taking what you want, right? It involves shaping the preferences of others through appeal and attraction. It's non-coercive, uses culture, political values, and foreign policies to enact change. There's a scholar by the name of Joseph Nye, not Bill Nye, but Joseph Nye,
His son?
I don't know. I have no clue. I don't think they're related at all. But I didn't look into that. He popularized the concept of soft power in the late 80s. He states that soft power is based on three resources: its culture, in places where it is attractive to others; its political values, when it lives up to them at home and abroad; and its foreign policies, when others see them as legitimate and having moral authority. Soft power can be wielded not just by the states, but all actors in international politics, such as NGOs, which are non-governmental organizations, or international institutions. The success of soft power heavily depends on the actor's reputation within the international community, right? So the better your reputation, the more kind of influence and soft power that you have, right? It also kind of depends on how well information kind of flows between the actors within this kind of soft power pull. So Japan's goals were kind of clear. Their economy was like, fuck, we kind of fucked this up. Things were not looking so good. You have the lost decade, which spans into the 90s. Like 1980, things are kind of like, picking up. We get anime, we get, cool shit coming out of Japan, technology, but at the same time, things are still kind of economically teetering. Ooh, we don't know. It's a little scary. But Japan sort of starts to make efforts to rebuild its negative reputation. It's like, hey, we fucked up. We gotta try and make up for it. We gotta try and change things and change the perception of Japan. So in 1980, the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs releases a TV show called Ocean, which is a Japanese soap opera at no cost outside of Japan, and it's well received in like 46 different countries. And the success of the show kind of leads into Japanese other sorry the success of that show and then other Japanese TV shows kind of established the foundation for like what cool Japan was inevitably going to be, and how they were going to use media to improve the foreign perspective of Japan. Sorry, did you have a question? I saw you starting to ask.
I don't think so.
Okay, sorry. I thought you had a question. In the late 90s, you really started to see Japanese influence spread to the West, especially with the rise of media such as Pokemon, and you started seeing the gaming industry kind of take a hold. And
Pokemon
beginning
was
to
a government conspiracy, dude.
No, it was. We'll get into it. It's so the media itself is not. It was almost a product of what Japan wanted. It was a product of Japan and the time. It wasn't like some sort of fucking government psyop to be like, love us again. Here's a bunch of, animated cool shit.
Pikachu, now you love us.
Yeah, exactly. That's not it at all. Essentially what kind of happened is Japan started seeing the strength of its media. And rather than saying, oh man, this is, we did all this horrible shit and we're just going to try and be better people. They were like, we're going to lean on this media and invest in this to help perpetuate a different view of our culture. Think about one of the best examples that I heard about in Katrina's video, which was she talks about Toonami. Think about late night.
Yeah.
And you're sitting at home and
Inuyasha.
Cartoon Network switches over to Inuyasha. You see the fucking guy and you start seeing your introduction into Japanese culture through anime. You have
That really
Dragon Ball Z,
was.
Inuyasha, when Naruto
Dragon Ball
started,
Z.
like, dude, like you start having these influences and Japan is like, we need to invest. This is gold. This is our way out. This is our golden ticket to rebuilding our shitty
Japanese
reputation.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah, dude. But you start seeing, especially again early on with Pokemon, with the gaming industry, how Japanese influence started to spread into Western culture. There is I don't remember if we've ever talked about when the author of Dragon Ball Z died, Akira Toriyama.
Yes.
There was-
I think we did an episode. We mentioned it.
There was celebrations of his life in the streets of Mexico because of how important he was to the Mexican people. There would be days if there were.
Mexico.
Yes, Mexico fucking loves Dragon Ball Z. There were days of there were events like social events held to mass watch important episodes of Dragon Ball Z. And he was celebrated. This guy, this fucking artist from Japan, was loved by the Mexican people. When you think
So
about
cool.
that influence, in the US, you start seeing the rise of cosplay. You start seeing these shitty American remakes of these anime shows, that
Dude,
get
the Dragon Ball
Americanized.
movie was fire.
Oh God, which one? Which live action Dragon Ball movie are we talking about? 'Cause there's multiple, and they both suck.
The one I saw was terrible, but I loved it.
Oh God. So you have all of these things. You have, again, Toonami. You have fucking Disney XD. Fucking dude, all of these places now, especially, I mean, you go on Netflix, you go on Amazon, you go on any of these streaming
All have
websites.
anime.
Anime all over the place. Anime movies getting released in theaters. There was the
Oh, yeah.
Demon Slayer movie that got released in theaters in the West, right? This influence was very clear and very strong. It's very palpable influence. And Japan was like, we got to fucking capitalize on this shit. As things kind of progressed into the 2000s, there were reform-minded government officials and business leaders that began to coin the term gross national cool, and adopted the unofficial... Yes. And adopted the slogan of Cool Japan. In 2002... there was an article by the Foreign Policy titled Japan's Gross National Cool, which was written by a man named Douglas McGray. who observed the expanding international cultural influence of Japan. He surveyed youth culture and the role of J-pop, anime, manga, video games, fashion, film, consumer electronics, architecture, cuisine, and the phenomena of kawaii and how that kind of sort of spread into the world. He highlighted
huge in early 2000s.
It was huge, dude. He highlighted the considerable cultural soft power and posed the question of the message the country might project. So the kind of thing that, again, going back into what soft power is, you have to understand it's these three things. It's political values, it's foreign politics, and it's culture. And a big part of that is the culture. Showing the family values of Japan, the power of friendship. These sorts of things weren't nothing. They were meaningful aspects of Japanese culture that was intentionally spread within this media to show this portrayal of Japan, right? This is what, this is the sort of thing that they wanted us to see. They wanted us to see these aspects of Japan. It wasn't the war crimes. It wasn't the imperialism. It wasn't the borderline fascism or possibly just true fascism. Don't mind that. We're sweeping that under here. Fuck all that. Check out Naruto Uzumaki and you better believe it, all right?
Have you guys seen Pikachu?
Yeah. Check this cute little motherfucker out, right?
Sailor Moon, anybody?
So the phrase "Cool Japan" gained greater exposure in the mid-2000s and continued into the 2010s. The Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry established a new creative industries promotion office to promote cultural and creative industries as a strategic sector, otherwise known as Cool Japan. To coordinate different government functions and to cooperate with private sectors. They announced that Japanese pop culture was one of the key elements for Cool Japan. That obviously included things like anime culture and idol culture. The mission of the office was to brand Japanese products with the uniqueness of Japanese culture. In 2011, they spent $19 million on these sorts of projects alone. And in 2012, they outlined a 31-part strategy titled, of course, The Cool Japan Strategy, which focused on economy, the strategy itself, overseas projects, and revitalization within Japan. The overall goal was to use international influence to increase the demand of Japanese goods and products, as well as create new Japanese jobs. The Cool Japan Fund launched in 2013, with the Japanese government committing 50 billion yen, which is $500 million over a 20-year period, with the target goal of 60 billion yen or $600 million in retention via private investor partnerships. It didn't go well. Shit, it was terrible. Within 5 years, the fund suffered pre-tax losses totaling about 10 billion yen, which is equivalent to $88.9 billion, and failed to deliver any earnings. And it faced a shitload of criticism.
Yeah.
People were like, you guys are trying to do what now?
So, I mean, do you know what the money was actually going to? What was it actually being spent upon?
I'll get into that a little bit in just a moment.
Sorry.
I need to talk a little bit about first the kind of the criticism it faced. Well, I'll talk about that. So, the money went into, essentially, hold on, let me see where I have this in my notes. Well, okay, we'll talk about, this guy named Gact, who kind of laid everything out for us. Gact. So in 2015, there's a Japanese singer-songwriter named Gact who actually criticized the government for their fucking crazy Cool Japan budget. And honestly, people don't really know where the money was going. Essentially, the funds were being distributed, but a lot of the companies and private investors and people that were involved in the fund and had their grubby little hands on the money were just kind of pocketing it. It's not necessarily
Cool Japan right there.
Because the idea was that we're going to promote our culture, we're going to fund these sorts of projects, and there was a lot of individual investment. There was a lot of recently, I guess as of 2019, there was like $12 million invested into the Sentai Group, which is a Japanese or it's a American production company. So like those sorts of things, like investing in these production companies, investing in foreign companies and things like that. Those are the sorts of things that the fund was meant for. But what it got used for was like,
Somebody somewhere said, you know what would make Japan really cool? A big ass party with this money. Let's go, boys.
Exactly. GACT criticized the government, saying that there was a huge budget for Cool Japan, but having no idea where that money should go, and that there was a huge money, but the government didn't have any idea where it should go. He said it's no exaggeration to say it has fallen into a downward spiral of wasted tax money flowing into little-known companies. In 2018, the Japan Today reported that it was too soon to consider it grossly incompetent and corrupt, but it was at least underperforming for now, talking about the Cool Japan Fund.
It's just incompetent and corrupt, guys. It's not gross yet.
So yeah, the money definitely was misused, mishandled. A lot of the issues that happen with these politicians, they had a lot of plans. They had a lot of big ideas.
They always
Their
do.
execution was, we're going to throw money at the problem. And we saw how well that panned out, right? It didn't.
Yeah.
They were just like, I don't know, fucking $50 billion. Fuck it, we'll make money.
That has to help.
So anyways, let's see, where was I here? So the Cool Japan faced a shitload of criticism. There's a lot of people who are still kind of burned by, Japanese imperialism and the effects of World War II and their actions there.
The Japanese people, you mean?
Yes, they were pissed off at the Japanese people. Sorry, yeah.
I can only imagine. It's exactly the same thing I said earlier.
Well,
they pissed off America in the 40s. Where still people are pissed off at them. Grandpa's still pissed at them.
Sure.
I can only imagine the same thing that happened. My grandma, or Grandpa was in Japan. We were doing all this stupid shit, and he was poor and starving. And that runs through the generation. People are still pissy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. But other countries were just like, dude, what the guys? Cool Japan, really? You're not that fucking cool.
Got him.
Got him. They faced a bunch of criticism due to their controversial past, especially from South Korea.
Unexpected.
Dude, what do you know? Did I mention the what was that fucking massacre? Which massacre was that one? The
fact that we have to ask which massacre tells you all you need to know.
The Kanto massacre. That's which one it was. Anyway, that's besides the point. That's just one of many. Excuse me. I take a little sippy of water. One sec.
Man, dude, this story's wild. I'm kind of loving this.
Oh man, I'm glad dude. When I found out about it, I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" So there were many countries that were very hesitant when it came to Cool Japan, and for several decades, for 2 decades in particular, Japan worked on improving their image and relationships within Korea itself, especially. The two countries even came together to create media and distribute each other's and to distribute that media into each other's countries to create a more positive image. And overall, things have kind of gotten better between Japan and Korea. I don't think that they're perfect, but it's just like, sorry, oopsies.
I kind of hate that. Japan was just a persistent boy who's just like, come on. You want to make some anime? Come on.
Man. It was definitely it was sort of like it was for they came together in a positive light. Right. And they really both countries. Here's the thing, both countries really worked for this sort of change in how they viewed each other. Because here's the thing, you could hate each other forever and nothing's gonna get done.
That's true.
Or you can admit to your faults and be like, hey, we fucked up. My bad, pimp. My bad.
Like we always say here on Time Well Meant, communication is alpha.
That's fucking right.
You need the leader of your country to call up the leader of their country and say, my bad, pimp.
My bad,
Let's work this out.
And then you can host the 2002 World Cup together.
That's
which
right.
they did in 2002.
Really?
So, yeah, both South Korea and Japan co-hosted the World Cup in 2002.
How does it work on as a co-host? Part was in each country?
There were games in each country.
That's pretty cool, though. I mean,
yeah.
That is for the better. I'm kind of memeing. Like, I get it, though. You can't hate each other forever. You just do a circle and keep hating until the next generation comes around.
Yep. Or you can improve your relations and share your badass media, because both Japan and Korea have incredible media.
It is true.
To share between each other. So relations have improved over time. Plenty of other countries were kind of hesitant, especially countries in Asia. But Japan did make a number of efforts to shift the approach to media to incorporate their media within the culture of neighboring countries to kind of improve relations and say, hey, we're not so bad anymore, guys. We've chilled out a lot. Hey, we have anime. You guys seeing this shit? It's pretty awesome. You guys ever heard of J-pop?
Have you guys seen anime titties? That was honestly Japan's play to the world. That was Japan. That was Japan telling the entirety of the world, my bad, pimp.
Yes. Check this shit out. There was plenty of criticism at home. We talked about GACT already. There was an editorial written in the Yomiuri Shimbun, which is another newspaper, arguing that the government was allowing the Korean wave to actually overshadow Japan's efforts in 2010. And that's kind of what leads into other countries pursuing this sort of thing. Japan's not the only person to pursue soft power. Korea has done it magnificently. When you look at the rise of K-pop, when you look at the rise of K-dramas, when you look at manhwas and all of this Korean media that has now been flooded into Western culture, they took what Japan was doing and actually perfected it.
I'll tell you this anecdote. My wife loves anything with zombies. You put a zombie in it, she's most likely going to watch it. Mm-hmm. If it is anything from Korea with a zombie, we have to watch it immediately. She will argue all day Korea does the best zombies.
Yeah. I've seen
that's part of the that's cool.
Several times.
What is that? Cool Korea?
It's the Korean wave. That's a whole other fucking. We could get into the Korean wave another day because it's too much information. But it was definitely not necessarily inspired, but it was definitely the similar sort of movement, at least to my knowledge, where you have this now. Korea has a lot of fucking soft power. They have a lot of cultural influence in other countries because of their media, because of the way that they've spread their culture. Think about how many fucking times did we in high school say, "Whoop, Gangnam Style"? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Like, that's fucking Korean culture right in our faces. Billions of views later. Like, oh my God.
So this might be kind of a wild thought, but
sure.
Is there a consideration in this soft power and the want for more soft power for the country to increase tourism?
I believe that's kind of lumped in with like sharing culture. When you start thinking about think about I guess you're not as familiar with anime as I am, but there are certain tropes in anime that have now kind of become commonplace within anime. You have the Japanese hot springs. You have the shrines. You have the food. You have, which obviously now has spread to America. There's a fucking really good ramen place that just opened up around the corner from where I live.
Dude, I ate sushi for dinner tonight. No joke.
Exactly. Think about there's these influences that then portray this country as being such a magnificent place to be. So obviously part of the cause and effect is a increase in tourism, which I think Japan's GDP is very heavily dependent on tourism. If I remember correctly, I remember reading an article about that recently. It was kind of talking about there's not necessarily a stagnation in Japan's economy, but rather a stability in their economy. And a lot of it's very dependent on Japanese tourism. And, the influence that Japan has had on us has been, it sort of reverberates. Like, I remember being in high school and being like, these fucking nerd weebs. What the fuck? Who gives a shit about Japan? Dude, now I have a fucking, hold on, I'll show you this. I don't know if this will show up on camera.
Oh, let's take off your shirt.
I'm not going to take my shirt off.
Y'all are missing out today, Spotify.
This is, for those of you who don't know, this Naruto? Tattoo. This is the Anbu Black Ops symbol that Kakashi has tattooed on his arm. Kakashi is the is a character from Naruto who is fucking made up. And so, I mean, the influence has clearly, like, there's people who argue about the fact that the political side of Cool Japan really didn't work out. When you look at it from a financial perspective and them investing into Japan's culture, it really didn't work out. They lost a lot of money. I think they're still continuing. They're not really, they're kind of breaking even. But when you look at it from a cultural dynamic, like, dude, Japanese culture and the idea, like, people will look at like the Nanjing massacre or the the Kanto massacre or all of the war crimes that were committed leading up to World War II or any of this stuff. They'll look at that sort of stuff and go, yeah, but they made One Piece. You know what I mean? Like, it's the Kanye argument all over again. He made Graduation. They made One Piece, so they get a fucking pass.
Dragon Ball Z is really just really fire, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's got its ebbs and its flows, man. You get all of this cool media. There's also, I mean, there's been this mischaracterization within the culture as well. You started getting, nowadays we talk about big anime titties like it's a fucking joke, but some of those big anime titties are on some young girls. Okay. There's the sexualization of the schoolgirl and youth. There's the issues that happen with, there's a lot of fucking incest. A lot of incest in Japanese media and fan service, unnecessary at sometimes, and that's kind of that's a product of a symptom that needs to be diagnosed in another video and looked at a little bit more deeply. But I think that kind of the conclusion to all of this is to never like obviously you should enjoy the media that we have now. I didn't talk about all this stuff. I didn't want to talk about all this stuff just to say, fuck you, Japan. How could you do all this horrible shit and then also influence us in such a way? Not what I'm saying at all. I just found it very interesting, but I think that people should be aware of their history, not even their history,
Yes.
just the history of the world.
Yes.
Take a step back and dive deeper. One of the coolest things that I love to do in my spare time, and I don't have as much of it as I used to, but when I did this a lot more than I do now, was just look more deeply into things. I saw a random fucking video that was like the Cool Japan strategy, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And here we go. Now we've talked about all of these things. Think critically, think for yourself, look deeper into something that you might want to look deeper into, and understand that there's none of this shit's a fucking coin. It's a D20 dice. There's so many sides to this. There's so many aspects of it. There's so many layers to this fucking onion that we call history in the world. And I think
want to add that applies to every country. Every country.
Absolutely. 1,000,000%. It's something to, you don't necessarily have to take everything with a grain of salt, but definitely take everything at deeper than face value, right? And that was kind of the whole point of this. I think that it's very interesting to see how Japan. I mean, fuck, man, I've played through all the Dark Souls. I have a fucking anime tattoo. I plan on getting more anime related tattoos. I've read countless hours of manga.
I learned to read playing Pokemon, dude. I was in the kindergarten, first grade when that shit came out. I was on my Game Boy asking my grandma, how do you pronounce psychic? I said, How do you pronounce psychic, Grandma? I don't know what this means.
I just found it so interesting to think about the grand influence that this kind of tiny island has had on our lives, right?
Well,
when you think about we did a whole episode on racing horse girls, right? That's an insane thing to think about.
A lot of Japan in this podcast. They
a lot
are
of
cool,
Japan, man. They are cool. They've done some fucked up stuff, man. And I hope, I have hope. Again, I'm not going to get super deep into it because it's not my place. It's not my country. It is important to understand what's going on in the world, in my opinion. Don't live in a fucking bubble. Look outside of it every once in a while. What's going on in Japan it reminds me a little bit of what we talked about today. There's still these scars of nationalism and national extremism that's kind of happening today. Um,
All around the
People
world.
love their fucking country. It's happening. Yeah, it's happening all around the world. I'm not telling anyone any way to think. I'm not saying that you should be one way or the other. Um, but if you start reading things online and people are starting to call what you agree with extreme, maybe take a step back and think about your actions and think about how you're pursuing the world, and how you're viewing it. At the end of the day, fucking love one another and try and, enjoy the cool shit that we have, because everything is finite, and we don't want to make it any more fucking finite than it already is. You know what I mean?
A little bit of a lesson to be learned as well, that you can be potentially one of the biggest fuck ups in the entirety of the world, and then remake your image some 80 years later.
Absolutely. It's definitely, there's some fucking, it's impressive. It's really, when you think about, like, man, these guys are fucking assholes.
Fucking assholes. In
And
living memory, there's people. You hit the nail on the head earlier. There's living people with memory of
yeah,
this.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Um, it's scary to think that we ever got to that point, but the best we can do moving forward is to learn from history, learn from your mistakes.
That's yeah.
Again, think
I would agree
critically,
with
think
that
for yourself.
because these Japanese soldiers, this army who was marching across that land and just committing these atrocities, they were humans, just like anybody listening to this than you and I. You think, like, that's so extreme that could never happen, but it was in living memory, man. And these
Yeah.
things, they have a cause and effect, and that's why it is so important to know the history behind it. I never knew all of this about Japan. This was wild, man. This was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. It was definitely one of those things where I put everything together and I was like, this is a fucking nightmare. Oh God. There's,
Know the feeling.
and again, I find, and maybe that's a cause of Cool Japan, of that strategy, where I look at Japanese history and I'm like, this is fucking incredible. But you could fucking throw a dart on a map or on a globe and
Find,
you could find incredible history everywhere. I mean, the idea that humanity and conscious thought really hasn't been around for that long, or at least conscious thought in the way that we're aware of it, right?
recorded history.
Yes, recorded history. There you go. That's what I'm more thinking of. Recorded history hasn't been around for that long, and yet in that span of time, it feels like we've done so much, right? There's so much that's happened. A lot of fighting, a lot of killing, a lot of fucking each other up.
A lot of fucking.
A lot of fucking. Hey, a lot of fucking. And it's always interesting to see kind of that, that the aspects of that and how we got from point A to point B, seeing how, Japan went from this, kind of feudal, country that was divided up into these,
Very, like, honor bound.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
that's an interesting point that I just thought of. They were so honorable and respect your elders.
Yeah.
Honor your ancestors and such things. And then they go and just massacre and destroy thousands.
Well, and the interesting thing
That
too
shift
is
wild.
post World War II, you see some of those positive aspects retained. You do see, Japanese citizens still still take care of their elders. There's their
Like, they
work ethic
definitely
is
have a
insane.
culture.
Their the idea of honor and pride within oneself, the idea
family.
of family is so much different. Courtesy. The one thing that I love hearing about is Japanese courtesy and how, you fucking, oh man, I didn't think to bring it up in the moment, but you talked about how when you think about Japan, you think about people packed in trains, and that's an aspect of courtesy that people are going to make themselves uncomfortable so that other people can get to the place that they need to be. They're gonna fucking move their book bag. They're gonna adjust themselves. They're gonna squeeze and suck it in so that way people can get in and make it to their destination on time. That's a courtesy. We see it as a little silly, and plenty of times when you think about the times that you've been in an elevator, and you go, "I'll wait." There's 4 people. That's too many, and you just fucking So these sorts of things are interesting. I think there's plenty of things that have been retained over time. As things are happening in modern day, it's there are other things that are being retained, not so good. Hopefully things, but at the same time, you see people fighting against that. You see protests, and you see things that are happening that they don't. There's a plenty of people who don't want Japan to go back to the way that it was.
A little too ultra.
A little too ultra. A little too ultra. The only ultra we want to see is plus ultra in My Hero Academia. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool.
But that's about it. So that's really all I have. I just thought this was very interesting. I thought it was a weird kind of rabbit hole to dive down. Politics in general is not something that I particularly care to talk about because I get real fucking wound up about shit. But I thought this was kind of interesting to talk about political history versus current day politics. I don't want to do that. At least not too deeply. I think touching on the subject and I think we've kind of made our beliefs.
Being aware of it is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've touched on things enough to kind of let people know what the fuck is up with us, where we stand. So
probably,
interesting to say the least.
Well, dude, I love that. Like I said, I didn't know all the backstory. I did know, and I had heard that Japan had a fucked up past, and I had heard of an event that occurred in Da Nang.
That is Da Nang is Vietnam.
And it was the sexual assault of Da Nang.
You might be thinking of Nanking. So Nanjing is Romanized to Nanking, which is the rape of Nanking, is the common.
Oh, okay. Well, then I did know about it. Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Well, I knew
That was
vaguely
that.
of it, I should say. But it was really interesting to me to learn the lead up and the before and after. Not so much the during. That wasn't very fun.
No, it was rough. That in combination with units 731, which again, I mean, if we wanted to do another deep dive into kind of the fucked up history of Japan, more so the events of World War II and leading up to World War II, I would go back and talk about Unit 731. I think it's Unit 731. I might be getting the numbers wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Unit 731. I'm gonna do a quick 31. It is. Yes, they were. I'm gonna say two words, and that's biological warfare. I'm gonna say two more words: human experimentation. Two more words: chemical warfare. That's all you really need to know about Unit 731.
Three more words: big fucking assholes.
Yes. The atrocities they committed is a whole other, again, it was kind of like, I was trying to keep the focus more on the military themselves versus the scientific divisions of the military. That was we would really have to do a whole deep dive. That would be if we had a Patreon, I think I would love to do a deep dive on that, because it's really something that I think needs to be talked about in an unfiltered light. Not because it's fun to talk about it, but because I think that you don't do a subject like that justice unless you talk about just how fucked it was. With Nanking, that's kind of like, I can make inferences. I think saying that there were 20,000 SVU cases, you can make inferences as to how bad. Use your fucking imagination, and that's not bad enough. All right. It was that bad. I mean, some of the fucking descriptions so funnily enough, in my notes, I started to put down some of the events, and I just hit that back. I was like, no, I can't. We can't talk about this.
No fun.
Yeah, it's not even that's no fun. It's just
no fun to talk about.
No, not at all. It's just unnecessary. It's a horrible moment in past that should not be forgotten, but should be learned from. I greatly believe that we should learn from these actions and move forward and never repeat certain aspects of history. And the only way you can not repeat history is by learning about it, which is what hopefully you've done today.
Yay! Round of applause.
Woo!
So, I enjoyed that very greatly.
Yes.
And I hope that everyone else did too. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all of Silas's hard work. Do you have a few more minutes, Silas?
I do.
Good. Because I thought of a hypothetical that we can end on during your presentation.
Would you rather be in Nanking or on the road leading up to it? No.
Neither. We're not answering that. We're not doing that. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
This is in referring to you talking about how Japan was potentially going to assassinate Charlie Chaplin to cause America to go to war, right?
Yes. Okay.
If another country was to hypothetically assassinate a modern day celebrity, who would we go to war for?
Oh God.
It's Jack Black. It's Jack Black.
Is it Jack Black?
You fuck with Jack Black, I'm coming for you.
For me, that's a hard one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really hard one.
The Rock.
To what?
The Rock.
The Rock.
But I mean, let's be
Dwayne
real.
"The
What
Rock"
country could
Johnson.
take The Rock out?
Not any of these modern ones, that's for sure.
Sydney Sweeney. I bet we'd riot for her.
Fuck no, I'm not writing for Sydney Sweeney. Fucking, I don't know. That's for some reason Uma Thurman is coming to my mind.
Hey, that's not
She's
bad.
pretty
That's not a
awesome.
bad call.
I don't know. I think probably the answer that I'm gonna have to go with, because I think now it's just because I've been enjoying his movies so much, is Robert Pattinson.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm being so for real.
The Lighthouse is a
Not be-
masterpiece, I'll admit.
I was gonna say Robert Pattinson post Twilight, because I just watched Mickey 17 and that was fantastic. I've watched. Oh, it's so good. It's one of those movies that, like, it's not so deep, but it's just a good time. You know what I mean?
I love that.
I love it. It's got a really cool story. The visuals are incredible. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I've seen the Batman. Honestly, so funnily enough, I was doing research for this and I was like, I don't know if I have enough. Maybe I'll do something else. And the other idea that I had for a deep dive was either going to be a deep dive of the Batman, the recent movie that came out, or the Alien franchise, and talk about alien lore.
Ooh, alien lore.
I might put that in my back pocket and save that for another day. I know that.
And the lore's expanded now. You got eyeballs.
I do, yeah. But so the Batman, and then he's just been fucking great. Yeah, Mickey 17 was fantastic. He was pretty good in Harry Potter. I don't know. He's just whatever. He's just been in cool stuff, man. He's been an interesting actor. And because, like, I'm not gonna fucking go to war for like Timothy Chalamet or someone. Like, he's cool, but I'm trying to think about like
Amaranth.
What the fuck? No, you're out of your goddamn mind. I'm not going to war for her.
What do you mean?
No.
National treasure.
Absolutely.
Oh, Nicolas Cage.
Okay, now we're talking. now we have a celebrity that we can both get on board with.
Okay.
Nicholas, I'm going to fucking war. Brendan Fraser. There we go. That's the one. Brendan Fraser. I'm going to war for that man. I fucking love Brendan Fraser.
You know what? Charlie Day.
There you go. Don't
fuck with Charlie.
Don't fuck with Charlie. Don't fuck with Brendan. Don't fuck with Charlie. Robert, if the next Batman isn't fucking peak, then I might not go to war for him. You know what I mean?
So what if it's like China takes out Robert Pattinson? Okay. That's too much for me. I can't fight China.
No, right? That's a lot. China's like strong.
Croatia fucks with Robert Pattinson. I feel like maybe we could take them.
Mr. President, we got Robert Pattinson's hand sent to us by Croatia. What the fuck? What are we going to do?
Get SEAL Team 6 on the phone.
Yeah. Send them in. We're going dark. We're coming for you, Batman.
Man, if China took out Jack Black, that would be World War III.
World War III is started by you think about the World War II was, or World War I was started from the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. World War III starts with the assassination of Jack Black. God. What a political move from China to be like,
bold.
Fuck all these politicians. Jack Black is our number one target.
We're going to hit him where it hurts.
Bowser? He's dead.
That's so funny.
Oh, shit. I'm definitely, I'll tell you what. that happens, I'm flying that cock push-up flag every
Dude.
fucking day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I will activate the lasers with my dick. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you've learned something here today. You had fun, you had a laugh.
Yes. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Please do like and subscribe. It means a lot to our editor. He works really hard on this, and he doesn't complain too much.
Leave a comment of your favorite Japanese atrocity.
Oh, your favorite Japanese atrocity, or your favorite celebrity that you would go to war for.
That too. Yes.
And if you want to get a bonus, you can include what country you would or wouldn't fight for them.
It's like you're gonna make a fucking tier list of the countries that we will and will not fight for Jack Black. Special episode incoming. The countries we wouldn't go to war for Jack Black for.
No, that's an easy tier list. Every country. Another planet can attack us, and we're gonna fight for Jack.
We'll do a lesser loved celebrity. We'll figure that out.
I think we could do this all day long, but I think that was that was time well meant.
I have been dialed in to this drama.
Communication is alpha.